Now, I discovered something that's absolutely shocking to me regarding this group, that the Third Temple Build Project has another project called the Copper Virus Project. And you're not going to believe this. And it's really kind of stunning because I covered this whole topic about the serpent of Moses on the pole. It's in my book, The Almond Tree, Aaron's Rod, the Messiah King of Israel. And it goes into great detail and shows this copper serpent on the pole at Mount Nebo. And when I saw this, I wondered if this is going to be brought into the Holy Temple, into the Holy of Holies. The serpent on a pole that Moses had stayed in the temple for hundreds of years, but then it was destroyed by the king and broken in pieces because the people were starting to worship it, and it was becoming an idolatrous object of worship. Actually, I wrote in my book that they claim to have had the pieces of that serpent on a pole broken in pieces inside the Hagia Sophia Church in Constantinople before it was sacked by the Crusaders and the Muslims. That was back in the 1200s. This is called the Copper Virus Project. When people for a bill to build the Bet HaMikdash started working on restoring the temple in our time, they said, I decided it would be good to bring back something smaller, yet related to the temple, to show the world how something that existed in temple times could relate to modern science. I decided on the copper snake. The copper snake was used by Moses to heal the Israelites in the desert. Later, it sat in the temple for hundreds of years until it was destroyed by the king. He saw that people were worshiping the copper snake and wanted it destroyed. Later, after the first exile, the Great Assembly declared that there was no longer idolatry in the world. So it became possible to utilize the healing of the copper snake and derivatives once again. Now we know it said, and God said to Moses, make for yourselves a snake and put it on a pole, and it will be that anyone bitten will see it and live. And Moshe made a copper snake and set it on a high pole, and it was that if a snake bit a man and he stared at the copper snake, that he lived. Numbers 21, 6-9 says, their sages explain that when victims stricken by the fiery serpents looked up at the copper snake, their vision turned heavenward. Their subsequent faith in heaven saved them from the deadly peril of the snake's venom. We find an explanation for this ancient phenomenon in the modern science of psychoneuroimmunity. This field teaches that our state of mind continually influences the functioning of our nervous system, which in turn affects every system of the body, including the immune system. This is why cancer victims in advanced stages of their illness will frequently survive until the completion of an important life event, such as marriage of a child or the birth of a grandchild. So this is so bizarre to me. You know what they've done? They have created a copper needle. This group, People for a Bill to Build the Bet HaMikdash, the Third Temple, an organization dedicated to rebuilding the Jewish temple in Israel, has teamed up with its parent organization, Canfi Nesharim Lakal, to revive this ancient form of healing in a modern form, to bring forth an alternative treatment for virus infections contracted from needle injections. We have commissioned Sharon Vixman, a craftsman and sculptor in Tel Aviv, to build a dynamic copper replica of an injection needle mounted on a silver-plated spiral base, embellished with copper letters taken from the passage of the Torah. There goes that rooster crowing. The piece will be held aloft so that people who have been infected by a syringe contaminated with the virus can look up at the replica. The piece is suitable for shipping. Centers or individuals wishing to own their own piece for their center or private location may do so by contacting us. It is recommended that the copper virus can be used under medical supervision. Current price for the copper injection needle, including stand, shipping, and insurance, is $1,000 plus shipping and insurance. To order a copper injection needle for or more information, they give the phone number or contact, and then they give all of these treatment success stories. If you can believe that. It says, our copper injection needle cannot be used for injection as it is full of metal and is thus a neutral object. Exposure to the needle recalls the imagery of the actual exposure to a second-hand needle that caused the infection, in a way that rewires emotional response to injection needles as recorded in the amygdala and in hippocampal maps of emotional attribution to things. Not only is the needle neutral, it has positive associations to copper and to the heavens. Really? It is a crafted sculpture, and it comes with the purpose of healing. Changing the emotional response to memories of injection needles is believed to reduce stress and resultant depression related to infection. Reduced stress and reduced depression leads to an improved response of the immune system. It says, what will the copper replica do? Recent studies explain that the process of being infected with HIV and HCV is like a PTSD experience in that it creates many sudden negative changes in the victim's life. One treatment for the stress related to such experiences is exposure to an object involved in the traumatic experience in a neutral way. In some of the treatment successes, they claimed that they raised the injection needle before the person who was ill, and in a few months their symptoms entirely disappeared. And this woman attributed her recovery to the treatment. And might I just say here that they have discovered that copper, when viruses are placed on copper, within a short time it kills viruses. When it's placed on glass or ceramic tiles or anything, the virus lasts for many days, and so copper kills the virus. And might I mention that I have something in my book about the Egyptians using copper to heal. Could this be why the Lord referred to the great city as Sodom and Egypt in the last days? Now here is the copper needle, and you can see it has the Hebrew letters all along here, and it's shaped like an injection needle. Then if you scroll up, you can see it's on a base, and they claim to have lifted this up before ill people, and they were healed, just like Moses' serpent on a pole. When I saw this, I thought, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Because my whole book talks about the true meaning of this healing that went on with Moses. I had to make the font smaller so you could see the entire thing on the stand. And this is what they're lifting up to cure people. So what if they build the third temple and they bring this thing there? You don't think that's idolatrous? Because the true meaning of the healing has to do with the rod of God lifted up. Now read my book and you'll see that this would be considered an abomination by the Lord in my book. What I just showed you was the copper needle with the Hebrew letters on it, the syringe that they lifted up to heal people. And I just thought of something. I have to add this here in the middle of my video because I was in the middle of making the video, editing it, when this came to my mind. I suddenly realized, because of all the details I put in my book about the rod of Moses and Aaron, I'm telling you that that rod had 10 Hebrew letters etched on it. And each of those Hebrew letters stood for one of the plagues of Egypt. 10 of them. I just had it occur to me, are there 10 Hebrew letters on that syringe made out of copper? I just went and checked and counted them, and there are 10. Standing for the plagues of Egypt on a syringe that they lift up. Do you realize the viruses, the plagues, all of this? The copper goes back to Egypt and healing practices. And here are 10 Hebrew letters, probably standing for those exact plagues of Egypt. I mean to tell you that I am so stunned that the Lord had me add that here. And now I've got to go on and edit the video, but I wanted you to know that this fake copper serpent on the pole replica in the form of a syringe with 10 Hebrew letters is exhibiting the 10 plagues of Egypt. So that further says to me that the great city called Sodom and Egypt, where your Lord was crucified, the Messiah was crucified, is Jerusalem, where they're lifting up this object as though it's the power of God. And it's not. Messiah Yeshua lifted up is the power of God. That's the truth. And I'm astonished that God has revealed all this to me in so many ways, and now it's like I'm seeing it coming to fruition, things that I already explained in detail in my book. How could God make this timing come to pass in such a way that now everything that they're doing is already titled on my book, is already in my book, and it's proving the opposite of what they're doing? Only God could have done that. So now I've got to get back to editing the video, and I'll tell you more, although I'm dressed in different clothes because this is the middle of the video where I'm putting this. I am just blown away. 10 Hebrew letters on that syringe of copper. Just like the 10 plagues of Egypt. Unbelievable. What do you think about this? And I have one more thing to say. If this doesn't convince you, along with my last video about that they anointed a Davidic king already and a co-prince, and now they're doing this, if this object is brought into the third temple, it's a fake, a phony, and the Messiah is the true rod of God. They're worshiping an object as if it's the power of God. And then saying that believing in Messiah Yeshua is idolatrous worship. No, you've got it wrong. You're doing the idolatry, and we are not. We are honoring the King. Basically, what they're doing is giving godlike powers to this object that they're lifting up and saying that it's healing people. Jesus Christ of Nazareth, Yeshua HaMashiach of Nazareth, is already the anointed Messiah and has paid the ultimate price to reverse the curse of death. And he healed many in Israel that were diseased and blind and lame. And it's unbelievable to me that Israel needs to open their eyes to who the true Messiah is. And I pray for them that they'll see the truth soon, and that the true King would come and sit upon the throne of his ancestor David forever, and none of these other earthly people are the Messiah. The Messiah is the Lord, the Savior, the Redeemer, who will descend from heaven with a shout. with the voice of the archangel and the trumpet call of God. And the dead in Messiah will rise first, because he's cured death. And he reversed the curse of death of Adam, coming as the second Adam. And death will have no victory because of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the true Messiah of Israel. Daniel wrote in Daniel's prophecy that the Messiah would be cut off. That means he would die, but not for himself. And then the sanctuary would be destroyed, and that's exactly what happened. That Jesus died, Yeshua died, and then the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. This is page 94 of my book about Moses' rod, the serpent on a pole. The serpent on a pole on Mount Nebo in my book shows that Messiah Yeshua bore the curse of the serpent Satan on the cross, bore the sins of the world to restore us back to God. It is the power of God through the Messiah, through the Holy Spirit of God in him, that can heal and perform all manner of resurrections from the dead, which he will continue to do in the future at the resurrection rapture. This is the serpent on a pole. And of course, this is my book, The Almond Tree, Aaron's Rod, the Messiah, King of Israel. And as I told you, this is the miracle almond tree on Holy Mount Moriah that was part of my miracle back in 2007 that started me writing the book. And at that time, God had me put in the title, The Davidic Dynasty Returns, revealing the true Messiah, a message of revelation from the word of the God of Israel regarding the identity of the Messiah. The Davidic Dynasty Returns. I had that title on here in 2007, and now they've got the Davidic Dynasty coin to restore the Davidic Dynasty. And this is truly profound. The best place to get a copy of my book, which is a scholarly work, it's pretty thick, but it's got all the scriptures in it, is olivepresspublisher.com. With all these signs and more that reveal how close we are to the coming of the Messiah, the true one, Yeshua HaMashiach of Nazareth, we can clearly see that we are extremely close to his arrival. And I think he's going to be here very soon. They must like the little plants that I planted or something in my garden pots.